A million robot clones of themselves. I mean, who does that?
Hello, welcome to the channel. My name's Jon Denton and these are your games to look out for in September 2017, and we're going to kick things off with Knack 2. Yes, the sequel to everybody's favourite weird thing made out of a bunch of triangles and circles. It's kind of coming out of nowhere, but to be fair, as much as the first game is laughed at and maligned, it's actually not that bad, especially when you bumped it down to easy. And by all accounts, the sequel seems to have better platforming, better combat, and generally a better idea of what it should be. I'm not expecting a masterpiece. It's coming out at a tough time, so we'll see with the game that's coming out next. But, you know, it's not going to be that bad, is it? Knack.
The city is secure. Those who fled are being hunted, and those foolish enough to remain have been executed.
Do you see all that I have done?
Alright, here we go, the big one, the game that everything apart from Knack 2 wanted to stay away from, and it's Destiny 2, of course. The all-consuming, life-ruining sequel to the problematic but ultimately extremely successful Destiny. Expect tighter strikes, expect a more cinematic story, expect more epic scope, expect more loot, expect an improved and tightened up Crucible. This could be the one, this should be the one, this probably will be the one that I spend the rest of my year playing. We shall see.
Get up close and personal with Go. Put a bullet in his head. Then maybe eat a sandwich.
An outright assault is doomed to fail. There will be no coming back.
It's worth it.
If the Red Legion want war, give them war. Humanity never deserved power. I am God, and I alone am worthy.
This is great. Anyone want a hug? No hugs.
Alright then, up next, this is a shout for one of the games of the year potentially for me, and a series that I've loved for many years despite those years spent in the doldrums, and it's PES 2017. And having played the online beta, I am happy to say, I'm comfortable in saying that this will quite easily be the best football game released this year, and truly one of the best sports games ever made. Now, unless something calamitous happens between that beta and the game releasing, then expect basically a sort of masterclass in programming, in design, in AI, in animation. This is the best sports game out there, trust me, and this will be the best version of that best sports game. Alright, coming at a tough time, to be honest, considering what happened with the sequel to Dishonored in the first place, you know, which struggled for sales, and you've been able to pick up for next to nothing for months now. is Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which looks very promising, and much like Dishonored 2, by all accounts, will be very, very good. It'll be interesting to see if Bethesda sticks to their mantra of not giving out review codes early to anybody, really, apart from some YouTubers that they're working with, because I think it worked well for Doom, but it's not worked well for Prey, it's not worked well for Dishonored 2, and they've got some big games coming up this Christmas period, and Wolfenstein and Evil Within 2, and this. We shall see, we shall see.
You know I'm coming for you.
Right, a big one here, the surprise of E3, the surprise at the end of Nintendo's conference, is Metroid Samus Returns on 3DS. It's being developed by Mercury Steam, the Spanish studio who did the Castlevania Lords of Shadow and its sequel and the Castlevania Lords of Shadow 3DS game. Not hugely promising, I have to say, in that respect, but you have to think that with Nintendo guiding it, this should be the kind of 2D Metroid sequel that people have been after, but I am tempering my expectations slightly given that studio's reputation. But who doesn't get excited when they hear that music, really?
Stop Ultron Sigma. We need the Infinity Stones.
Release me.
Stark and Rocket say he's dangerous.
No, I said insanely dangerous.
I will give you what you want.
We're out of options and out of time.
I'm sorry, Cap. Can't let you do it.
Okay, a curious one. It's been a big year for fighting games with ARMS, with Street Fighter V's Renaissance, with Tekken 7, with Injustice 2, and others. And Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite has certainly suffered a little bit in terms of the fighting game community. It's had its graphics laughed at, the story's been laughed at, and people are perhaps slightly miffed at the fact that it seems like a less complicated version of Marvel vs. Capcom compared to its predecessor. But I played the demo and I thought it was thoroughly decent. A lot of people in the know in the fighting game community, the high level players, are saying it's very decent. So fingers crossed for another strong entrance in fighting games in this incredible renaissance. But again, it will struggle because this is a very, very packed month.
No moon. Find the cord. Nab the power stone. Boom.
Okay, a game that I'm sure will find an audience is the rather spectacular looking Project Cars 2. Now, I'll freely admit this isn't really my cup of tea. I've never been massively into serious racing games, but for the many, many, many people that are, Slightly Mad Studios is the kind of obsessive nerds that you really want making a game like this. It looks absolutely glorious. I'm sure if you ramp it up to 4K full settings on PC, it's going to be almost indiscernible from real life, but covering all sorts of driving disciplines, from rallycross to probably go-karting again, open wheel driving, all that sort of stuff. Expect this to be one of the finest sim driving games ever made.
It's hard to keep your attention these days. Stay with me? Good. This is Rainbow City. We need to go down to see...
Right, an interesting one in a month full of big hitters, and it's Devolver, the publisher that is just committed to doing interesting stuff with Ruiner. We're not too sure exactly what this game's going to be, what it's all about, but you can't deny its style. And it kind of has a Hotline Miami vibe to it, but without copying that sort of 2D ultra retro aesthetic. It looks violent and nasty and grimy and synthy, and I like all those things, so I'm holding out hopes that this could be something very interesting. We shall see. We shall see. Finally here, unbelievable to say it, but finally Cuphead, one of the most stylish and sort of pleasing to look at games you'll ever see. It's finally going to hit Xbox come the end of September. We don't know if it's going to be as good as it looks. I don't think it could ever probably match up to how cool it is in terms of its style, but all signs point to a very hard, very interesting and very welcoming platform game, and the kind of exclusive, even though it's not exactly a massive game, that Xbox really needs in 2017.
Here we go. A chance, Ronaldo.
Right, rounding off this packed September is one of the biggest games in the entire world. It's FIFA 18, a game that will doubtlessly sell millions and millions and millions of copies. We're going to be interested in seeing the Switch version on top of all the next gen versions, the 4K version on Xbox One X, the probably nearly 4K version, if not 4K version on PS4 Pro. But I'll say it again, this won't be as good a football game as PES 2017. In fact, it won't even be close. But nobody cares. They'll buy it anyway. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I hope that's enlightened you as to what's coming out in September 2017. If you enjoyed the video, remember to subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!